Welcome to another episode of From Startup to Wunderbrand with Nicholas Kuhner.
Vance Morris, but an American Vance. So I had to ask his permission to be able to say it the correct way, which is Vance. So Vance, welcome. Before we get to chatting to you, I just want to give a bit of background. Customer experience and customer service authority, keynote speaker, coach, best-selling author. I see 3 books here. And you help businesses create customer experiences that drive extraordinary customer referrals and profits. And you help people Disney-fy things, and we'll go through that a little bit later in this discussion. So Vance, welcome.
I appreciate it so much. Thank you, Nicholas. Looking forward to it. And I wish I could just get you to record saying my name and I would just broadcast it everywhere.
If you click the link in the description, you can get 10% off.
Love it.
So that's the nice thing about working with Americans. Everything's a deal. So there's always opportunities to make a buck. But I want to talk a little bit about customer experience. And you've got a bit of background in that. And especially with working with one of the biggest service brands in the world for 10 years and rising up the ranks to almost be top potato. Maybe talk to us a little bit about your background, and then we're going to talk about service experience and why the customer is always forgotten. Yeah.
The company you are so casually alluding to is the Disney company. So I worked for the Mouse down in Orlando, spent 10 great years down there. And it was really the best job I could have that would set the stage for the rest of my career. It was the first job I had out of college. And one of the first things I learned when I got there, it wasn't customer service, it wasn't how to make people happy. It was that company ran on systems and processes. I walked into the room, we were opening up a new resort. It's called the Yacht and Beach Club. And I walked into the room and there are just stacks and stacks of binders everywhere. And I asked my boss, I'm like, what is all this? He goes, oh, these are all the SOPs and OJTs for all the different jobs we have at the resort. I mean, there's just mountains of these things. And it took me a while to understand. He says, once you understand the process, once you follow the process, once you do it the way we say, processes actually give you freedom. And that's how Disney employees are so cheerful and are able to create magical experiences, because the process that they have been tasked with, whether it's waiting a table in a restaurant or operating a ride, they've got that nailed down. It's rote. I mean, it's just like second nature to them. And it gives them the opportunity then to do additional things for the guests. So that whole thing about process just has stuck with me for the last 30 years or so. I always get the question, oh my God, you left Disney? Why would you leave their place? I said, well, there's got to be more to this world than just Mickey Mouse. So I was a consultant for a couple of different restaurant companies here on the East Coast of the U.S. I spent a number of years working for a retirement community. I had 3,500 old people living try having dinner with them. So this was fun. This was amazing. So we would have dinner with the director. So I was the director, and I'd sit down and I would have 10 people at the table with me. And on purpose, I asked this question every night. I said, please tell me, how are the vegetables cooked? Half would say undercooked, the other half said overcooked. And I just said, that's it. Case closed. I never want to hear anybody complain about the food ever again, because you guys can't even agree if it's undercooked or overcooked.
Don't ask them about the prune juice, obviously.
We didn't really sell that much. But the average resident actually gained about 10 pounds the first year they lived there, just because. Anyway, had a couple of corporate jobs, found out I make a lousy employee. I just don't like to be told what to do. Just ask my 2 ex-wives. And so I started my own in 2007. I can't believe that was 17 years ago. Started my own business, something all small boys dream of doing. Started a carpet cleaning business, added to that oriental rug washing and mold remediation. And I knew from the get-go, though, that it was going to be a premium level service. I was going to make it the Disney of carpet cleaning. That is exactly what I did. There was a certain clientele that we wanted. We wanted the affluent market. We were not coupon clippers by any stretch of the imagination. We didn't do discounts. And so that was just the direction we went. And people started to ask me, you don't look like you're working very hard, but you seem like you're doing okay. How the heck are you doing this? And so I started coaching and consulting, and that was in 2013. So I've been doing that for about 11 years now, which brings us to today.
Yeah. Well, interesting backstory. And I think you mentioned, why would you leave Disney? I think once you've worked in the belly of the beast, you see it isn't that exciting. I was head of marketing at MTV, which is, again, people say, why would you ever leave that? And once you've seen the inside of the beast, it's not that exciting. It's not all parties and drugs and sex. I mean, that's 50% of the time, but the rest of it is actual hard work and SOPs and selling media time.
And I just, go ahead, I'm sorry.
I see in your headline here, it's about taking your ordinary business to extraordinary. And I think that's quite important. If you look at a restaurant or a resort which has got Disney on it, it's basically a room, 4 walls, a bath, a shower maybe, and a couple of rides outside. That's just a building. Are you able to do this for any company? You said you did that with your carpet cleaning business. How does a normal person who's got a bakery or who's got a cleaning service or a mattress store bring in some of that magic that you learned from Disney?
Yeah, it's, and this is where we get into the word Disney-fy. And my definition of it is creating experiences out of the mundane. So we all have boring, mundane things that we have to do day in and day out to keep our businesses up and running. Same as Disney. Disney has just figured out a way to create experiences out of all those boring, mundane things, like answering the telephone. I'll give you an example for my carpet cleaning, which was one of the boring things we have to do is get into the home. If we can't get in the home, we can't clean. So we have completely scripted out and created an experience out of getting into the home. And it starts like this. We park in the street. We don't park in the driveway because, God forbid, I've got an oil leak and now I got something else I got to clean up. My technician gets out in a clean, crisp uniform because he carries extra uniforms in case he gets dirty on the job beforehand. He carries a special mat and toolbox, and he goes up to the front door, lays down the special mat, and then he knocks on the door. He doesn't ring the bell because friends knock, salespeople ring the bell. Takes a couple steps back. Mrs. McGillicuddy answers the door, and he says, "Hi, my name's Stephen. I'm here to create your healthy home. May I come in?" Mrs. McGillicuddy says, "Sure." So he does an exaggeration of wiping his feet on the mat, and then he puts little booties on his clean shoes, and he enters the home. Then he presents Mrs. McGillicuddy with a gift. Now, I don't know about in South Africa, but here in the States, tradespeople don't generally give a gift to the person in the home before they do any work. And so by giving that gift, it separates us from every other competitor out there, not just cleaners, but anybody that would be doing business with us. And that's the experience of just us coming into the house. And so you can do that. Answering the telephone can be an experience. How you deliver things, if you're e-commerce, how do you package what you sell? Cardboard box like an Amazon box, or do you have a custom box for it? You mentioned bakery. I mean, my God, if you've got, custom, really knock your socks off pastries or cupcakes or whatever, and then you put it in a, off the shelf box, well, that's detracting from the experience. And while I'm mentioning that, every detail in your business either enhances or detracts from the experience. There is no middle ground. So if you put your beautiful cupcake in a brown box, well, that brown box is detracting. And when you have enough detractions, it affects your ability to price. Because, when you have great experiences, you get price elasticity and you have the ability to raise your prices, just like Disney.
Well, you're touching on 2 key things here, and you're talking about experience, but I would put brand in front of that. So it's a brand experience, because at the end of the day, this is what people are going to remember, and this is how you're going to be positioning yourself and differentiating yourself from competitors. And the key thing, as you mentioned earlier with your time at Disney, is codifying it. So having that manual saying, we do this, 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 and this. So there's no confusion, and it's also replicable. So it can be done over and over and over again. And that's how you build that brand credibility. If you bring a cookie one day and nothing next time, you break that brand trust, basically. But these are some fantastic ideas. It ties into the customer journey. And I suppose you do a lot of customer journey mapping as well. As where in this customer journey can we find an opportunity to be better or different than our competitors? Is that something that you'd potentially look at?
100%. And we look at it from the first touch point, which would be something in your marketing, whether it's a website, a postcard, an ad, and then all the way through to the end. And then more important, what are you doing for customer retention? What are the touch points after the sale? What are you doing to keep a connection with them so that they come back? I mean, they're the easiest people to sell to because they've already bought from you. They know, like, and trust you. There's so many people that just, they forget about them. And, I think we've just been brainwashed into thinking that new is the only way we can grow. And we can grow that way, but we won't be very profitable because getting new customers is really expensive. But paying attention to our existing customers is not expensive because, again, like I said, they've already bought from us. They trust us. They're probably referring to us, and we can sell to them again. We can cross-sell, we can upsell, and they'll withstand a price increase because they know our service is fantastic.
Again, you talk a good game, Vance, but these things all cost money. For example, imagine I'm a small business, I'm a bakery. I'd love to do all of these things. I want to write SOPs, I want to write emails, I want to have a lovely box that I can send to my customers to motivate them and keep them buying. I don't have a large brand and marketing team. Is there a solution for something like that, for a person like that?
My whole getting in the front door story with my carpet cleaning business, there's no cost to that except for the little gift that we give. And even if you eliminated the gift, that's still a complete experience. So if you own a bakery, what is the experience of walking in the front door? I mean, do you have the little ringy-dingy bell? Those things are gone. Okay, what does your counter person do? Do they ignore the customer when they're coming in? Do they step around the register and welcome the customer coming in? What actions is that person taking? So that's part of the experience, is what are they actually doing? I've been in a couple of places where, they'll like shout across the dining room, "Hello, welcome." And I'm like, well, that wasn't very nice. Part of the experience is upselling. You go into the bakery. Hey, you're getting this cupcake with this icing. We have the drink for you that is the perfect complement to that cupcake. It's not too sweet and it's going to go great with this. That's, again, part of the experience. I mentioned answering the telephone. Consulted with some insurance agents a number of years ago, and one of the agents was a rock and roll fanatic. Gold records on the wall, autographed guitars, amazing stuff. And we brainstormed with his business, and insurance agents kind of a boring, mundane thing, and he wanted to stand out. He was in a rather large market, and one of his employees actually suggested we should answer the phone this way. So normally you would call and say, "Thank you for calling Dave's Allstate. How can I help you?" And after the brainstorming session, we got to, "Thank you for calling Dave's Allstate, the agency that rocks." Answering the phone that way cost nothing. Zero, zilch, nada. And remember, your marketing is designed to attract the people you want to do business with and repel the people you don't. So just by answering the phone that way, he sifts, sorts, and screens out bad clients. And people that are like, "Well, that's pretty cool," they'll continue the conversations. Yeah, it doesn't, wowing or creating experiences, they don't have to have costs. Pick up the phone. "Hey, how did you like the product? Was our service okay?" A lot of people just don't do that. You want a small cost? Handwritten thank you letter. The letter costs you 25 cents. I don't know what the postage is in South Africa, but another 50 cents. And handwritten thank you letters, I do them all the time. And I get phone calls thanking me for the thank you letter.
Yeah, handwritten letters are fantastic. Look, I haven't received a letter in South Africa for years because the post office doesn't work. So I've moved to Norway, and here I get a lot of letters. So everything works nicely here. But you spoke about the simple effort of writing a letter and that people will respond to. I've spoken to a fantastic chap on my podcast before where they've got automated or robots doing handwritten letters, which is also fantastic. So you can do it in a large way as well. You've mentioned to me that after this call, you are getting onto a webinar to chat to some customers about a new service that you've got. So I want to chat about that. And then I want to just touch on the 3 books bestsellers that you've written, and maybe which one of those would be relevant to our audience to get a bit deeper insight into how they can create this Disney experience.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. So yeah, we were talking before the recording, I coach a lot of people, and I'm a firm believer now that people have enough information and not enough implementation. So for the first time in my coaching career, I have a done for you product, and it is a customer retention system in a box. And so it is designed to keep you top of mind with your customers. A lot of businesses think that if they just do a good job, people should remember them. And that really isn't it. I mean, that's the bare basics for entry into your market. It's not going to do anything else. And one more point on that is that it is not your customer's job to remember you. It is your job to remind customers that you exist. So in the retention system, there is a print newsletter that will work in Norway. There is a postcard, and these are all done for you. Literally, you put your logo on it, put a stamp on it, send it out. There's weekly emails already designed for you. So you get the digital assets. You can edit it how you please. It's a marketing calendar, a marketing checklist. There's coaching calls with me for how to customize and personalize these things. And, it's just really important to stay in touch at creating what I call emotional connections with your customers, because once you have an emotional connection, they're not going anywhere. They really aren't. I mean, I shamelessly use my children in my marketing. I do. My daughter used to do ballet, and I used to put pictures of her in her tutu, from 5 years old on up. We were in a grocery store one time, and some lady came up to my daughter, Emma. She says, "Oh my God, Emma, how was your ballet recital?" And, my daughter and I were like, "Who the hell is this?" So we were getting ready to hide. Oh, wait, she must be a customer. So, like somebody like that, she's never leaving me. I mean, I could, my prices, oh no, I love you guys. So creating those connections is what's really important. So I call it the loyalty profit engine. And, it's a monthly subscription, but it arrives at your front door at the end of the month. You got a whole month to toy with it and program it and then implement it. So it can't be it's like 98% done for you. So.
And who's the ideal customer for that? So if you had to have a wish list, a little genie came out of the bottle and said, "Let me get you some customers," who should be getting in touch with you about this type of product?
Great question. Yeah, definitely businesses that have infrequent contact with their customers. So businesses in the trades, like an air conditioning repair company, this year they fixed the heating, and then it's going to be 2 years before they fix the air conditioning. Anybody in food service, restaurants, bakeries, especially if they have off-peak times, using this system, you can really fill your off-peak. You go to a restaurant between 2 and 4 in the afternoon and there's like nobody in there. This will certainly help with that. And then kind of professional services, accountants, financial planners, because there's nothing worse than the only time you hear from your provider is when they want money. Your accountant, but you see them once a year when taxes are due and here's your invoice. That's not exactly a great relationship is made.
Great. Well, so I'll put those links in the description for folks. And I just want to lastly touch on the books. So talk to me about the books. And then the last thing I want to discuss is just the coaching, because I think a lot of people don't know what experiences they can create for their business. Sometimes you just need a little insight or a little push from somebody to say, wait a minute, I didn't realize that just the way I answered the phone or did this basic thing could actually be of huge value to my business.
Yeah, so the best book to get would be Systematic Magic. It's kind of my flagship book. It's got what I call 7 magic keys to Disney-fying your business. It's kind of the cliff notes of my main program, but it's designed as a workbook. So, you read a chapter, there's some questions in the back on how you could possibly implement this in your business, and then go implement it. Really, the whole point to everything that I do is just take one idea and go and try it and do it. Because if you don't, this has been just a nice interview that you've listened to in the car or on the treadmill. You read my book. Okay, great. That killed a half hour. But if you take an idea and go and try it and do it, now we're talking making some money.
Absolutely. And I suppose that's what it's about. Customer loyalty, making cash money. So for those of you, I totally subscribe to what Vance is saying here, because I worked in hospitality for many years with a company called Nando's, so I know how to cut up chickens, and I used to write those SOPs. So, Yeah, I agree. And they make a heck of a difference, and is the difference between a regular old brand and something really special. So Vance, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
To watch this episode live, go to our YouTube channel or go to kuhne.no. That's KUHNE.no.